All right. Welcome to the Rashawn Franklin Show. I'm your host, Rashawn Franklin, and I've got one of my KSR alum on the call on the pod today, Jon Schuette. He's been on the Rashawn Franklin podcast before. One of my favorite guys that we work with at KSR, and I'm bringing him on to talk about our beloved UK Wildcats as well as some other NCAA musings. So, John, how you doing? How you been doing? It's been a while.
I know it has been a while. Doing good so far. Got to kind of brush off the podcast dust. Haven't been on in a while or any in a while. So thank you for having me on again. And hopefully I'm not too rusty for you.
Nah, come on now. I know that you still are really deep into the analytics. That's what you were kind of known for at KSR. Are you still kind of staying abreast of the analytics? I know Ken Palm is always something a college basketball fan is going to pay attention to, but are you doing still your own kind of calculations?
Yeah, I am. My business partner, actually, he's more focused on the college basketball side, but we trade kind of like thoughts, opinions, and data techniques, whatever you want to call them, with college basketball. My focus more now is college football, keeping kind of multiple sets of power ratings there, kind of trying to find different things that maybe other power rating systems aren't looking for. Because if you're looking at the same things, you're just going to get the same answers and lose all the time. But football, more my focus now, but I'm still pretty plugged into the college basketball scene.
Cool. That was a hell of a game last night. I think they're going to win it. I mean, at home, you probably got a little bit of an advantage just knowing the arena, the stadium pretty well. But Indiana and Oregon, some interest in the Oregon side of this with Will Stein. But yeah, this has been a good CFP for sure, right?
Yeah, it really has been. Honestly, I'm kind of impressed with Indiana the most. I mean, obviously the Heisman winning quarterback, they're good at receiver. They're really just solid everywhere on defense. They obviously lost their kind of main tackle for loss guy in a kind of freak celebration accident after the Big Ten title win over Ohio State. But I mean, they just have plenty of guys they can plug in and kind of just take care of everything. Obviously, I want Oregon's offense to do really well with Will Stein coming to Kentucky after this. But I mean, just kind of the question I asked myself last night before I bet Indiana's national title, I think it was like plus 128 or something like that, was, I mean, if they were wearing Ohio State's uniforms, like what would their odds be? Like, because, I mean, plus money on them kind of seems pretty valuable. I'd say it probably should be like minus 120. They've just looked like a machine all season. And it's not like last year where they just kind of had some good fortune with scheduling, ran it up on the really bad teams, and then like kind of struggled when they went up against like the better talent last year. But this year, I mean, it's just been pretty much dominance from start to finish.
Yeah, they're really freaking good. They're doing a good job scouting the portal and bringing guys in that can play at a high level. Obviously, Signetti he's got to be the best coach in college football right now. He is killing it. The thing about Oregon, though, Texas Tech was really freaking good, and they made them look so bad that I kind of think that they got a shot tonight. But like you said, IU's been playing so well, it's hard to bet against them. But it's going to be a great game, I think. And whoever has to go to Miami to face Miami, that's a tough task. So we'll see how it goes these next couple weeks. So I brought you on to talk about Kentucky basketball. We're going to start by talking about the loss to Missouri. It has been a disaster because when you think about how excited I personally was after we beat Purdue in that exhibition, how we looked cohesive. We looked like we had an identity. We looked like we liked each other. Hope looked like he had it figured out. You don't talk about number 9 like he was talking about not being confident, but you can't do that unless you know for sure we're going to go to a Final Four or something. You don't play with the fan base like that. He should know that.
Mhm.
But let's talk about Missouri, the Missouri loss. You were there. You had a really good seat behind the bench. Talk about what you saw, and then we'll talk about the game and where this team goes from there.
Yeah, so fortunately, through my fiance, we were able to get some fairly nice tickets to the game, pretty close to the UK bench. And really, even like during the good times of the game, it just seemed like there wasn't a lot of energy on the bench. Again, like I haven't sat there throughout the entire Pope tenure or even the Calipari tenure before that. So maybe this team is just kind of a quiet bunch of guys. So I can't really say like, oh, they're quiet. that's why they're bad. I don't really know. It just seems like the message wasn't getting received. So it just seems like there's something behind the scenes that we don't know about, that the guys really just aren't connecting well. And it just seems like almost apathy, indifference that really doesn't allow them to play at their full potential. I can't really say for sure. And honestly, I don't really think kind of anybody knows, because the pieces should, they may not be a perfect fit like we thought at the beginning of the season, but they certainly fit better than this with given their kind of individual talent, I would say.
Yeah. The individual talent, the way they should be performing defensively. I go back to that Purdue game a lot because, that's a top end talent having team. And they made them, even though it was at Rupp, they made them look kind of bad. They couldn't really score. We've got tremendous athletes at every position. And this was before Jaden Quaidens came back, right? So, we felt like, that particular game gave us a lot of hope, I think, as a fan base. But then the Louisville game happened, and it feels like it's been like a slippery slope since then. And that loss in itself isn't a terrible loss, right? You go to Yum, you lose. That's okay. They've got some good talent. They were due, but to have this just slippery slide after that, there's rumblings that something happened at that particular game. Let's just talk about, that and, how it's looked pretty much since then.
Yeah, so it's just, I don't know any other way to say it other than bizarre. It just seems like the shooting that we thought we were going to have hasn't really materialized yet.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's Cam Williams. He's kind of come on lately. I think he had that 8 out of 10 game. So, I mean, obviously the potential's there for a good game. Chandler's had a decent season from three. I think a lot, like obviously Lowe's injured, but he wasn't a good shooter before then. But something still should be able to materialize there with the offense. It's almost kind of like thinking at this point of the season, like we're halfway there at this point, and it seems like nothing we've tried with the offense is working. So it kind of seems to me like the only like Hail Mary for like the remainder of this season would kind of be to go somewhat of like kind of a Virginia style back before they were a national title contender. Like just really lean into like defense, because we know Quentin's is really good at defense. Maybe we just go as long and rangy as possible, make it even more miserable on offense. But honestly, how much worse can we get? So maybe
Yeah.
we just lean into the defensive side of it and just see where that takes us. Because honestly, I don't know if the offense is going to materialize this year.
Yeah. And I think when they put the roster together, Mark Pope knew what the deficiencies were in his BYU teams and the last year's UK team. It's always been defense. Like his team are able to score, but they just can't defend. So they kind of over-indexed on, hey, we're going to get some athletes that can defend 3-and-D guys, and it kind of just seemed like the roster is not great, or he doesn't know exactly how to use these pieces in their particular way that they need to be used, and it just kind of has gone off the rails. It could get really bad. I don't think we're making a tournament, but to come out to Rupp every week and not know if you're going to win, that can really disrupt a man's confidence and how he's walking around Lexington. Like it could get bad, man. We've been. I don't know. I don't think you were at UK yet when Billy Clyde was there. Those were my first couple years, and it was bad.
Mhm.
Like, when you don't win, but you're not Cal and you don't have one, it could get really bad as a UK basketball coach.
Yeah, the Billy Gillespie years, that was my junior and senior year in high school. And then I can still remember where I was when the Calipari announcement got made. I see people bringing up the Gillespie versus Pope records at this point. I think that's kind of a bit of a false equivalency. I mean,
Yeah.
Gillespie, by the end of his tenure, had 4 losses to like sub 150 teams, if memory serves, from like Ken Palm, like VMI, and I think San Diego was one of them too. Obviously, like we don't have anything near to the level of that under Pope yet. I mean, that was our worst loss to Missouri, and I think their like Ken Palm ratings like 55th or something like that. Obviously, at home, you can't lose that game to like a team like that. A road loss to a team like that, that's possible. Yeah, obviously, you can't lose a game like that at home.
Yeah. It's really bad. So I kind of want to spin this forward. I want to ask you about Mark Pope. Like, let's worst case scenario with this season, and where does that leave him going into next season? And then we need to talk about Mitch Barnhart and the decisions he's made over these last couple years. Outside of other sports, the ancillary sports. He's killing those. Baseball, volleyball, every other sport he besides basketball, football, he's really like doing really, really well. So let's talk about Mark Pope for a second. He doesn't make the tournament with his team. First of all, do they bring him back if we have like a really, really shitty into this year?
But that's just kind of something I don't know. I mean, obviously, Mitch is a very private person in terms of just how he runs the athletic department. So it's hard to really get inside his head on what he's thinking or anything. So obviously, I don't know what he's thinking. The fan base, just what I've seen from like media, social media, just everything like around town like that. I think everyone's just kind of caught up in a, it's like, I don't know, man. I guess you deserve 3 years, like to try. And it's certainly possible if he gets back to like what made him successful in the first place was just offense first and everything. I think there's always a possibility to like turn around. But yeah, I think it, and like just kind of the modern era of like NIL and like transfer portal where you're just able to turn around something so fast. Maybe you do go for a new option. I mean, I don't know. I wish I had a definitive answer there, but it's just like I think it's just going to be what everyone's feeling in March. Like, are we not even close to the tournament? Do we make it in the first four? It's really just hard to say. Like, if we collapse and like win like four more games the rest of the year, I think you have to have a conversation about that, making a change potentially. Obviously, the appetite may not be there to spend even more money after you just had to dismiss Stoops. But yeah, I think with that money tied up now, one more year, it might just have to happen no matter what. But again, I don't know what the big money's talking about. I don't know what Mitch Barnhart's feeling. It's just kind of a weird place to be because obviously everyone wants definitive answers like right here, right now. And it's just like, I don't know. I wish I did, but I just don't.
It's a weird one because you see all these other coaches who are first year, second years. Like look at Michigan with May. They're just having a lot of success. We weren't able to get the UConn coach, Dan Hurley, and so that kind of set us back. We thought we were getting him. We thought we had some traction there. It didn't happen. The guy I really wanted was Billy Donovan, but it just didn't line up. He's the coach of my Chicago Bulls right now. I don't know how long that's gonna last. Maybe there is a second possibility of that happening if things kind of align there. So that's a possibility. I think he might deserve one more year, but if it doesn't happen next year, I think you have to seriously consider making a change. The problem is Cal was so terrible these last however many years that we're just dying to get back into the national stage in the national spotlight and be good again. And, that Sweet 16 run was kind of like a whetting of the appetite. And we were hoping to actually have a meal this year, and that's not going to happen. So, he's kind of in a weird spot. And he knows how visceral UK fans can be. He just knows. So he knows, and you can just look at his face from this on the sideline. He looks drained. He looks, just beside himself, and it sucks to see because he's one of us. But you gotta have some success in this role. Period. That's just how this goes. And yeah, so let's talk about Mitch Barnhart. You don't know what he's thinking, and then you think about, hey, there probably is going to be a new AD sooner than later, right? So I thought that he probably was hoping that Stoops didn't wet the bed so that he wouldn't have to make a decision on Will Stein or another coach. So I know he don't really want to make this decision for the next college basketball coach. Let's just talk about like his past couple years. Is he over the hill? Has this job in college basketball and college athletics passed him by? Well, I'm talking particularly football and basketball.
This kind of goes into like the complexities of it all again. It's like Mitch Barnhart has been really good here for a really long time. And I know it's always really easy to get caught up on the negatives, like the Billy Gillispie, the Joker Phillips, and all that. But under Stoops, I mean, outside of the like last two seasons where it kind of looked like it was like maybe some hope, but then at the end we kind of knew. Having a 10-win season at Kentucky pre transfer portal NIL, and then in 2021, kind of as the portal was just opening up, reinventing himself, kind of getting Wandale in, getting Will Levis in to get that second 10-win season. I mean, that goes a long way with just like just showing like you're a patient, competent, like well above average AD. You go to like the basketball, like I know everyone likes to say, oh, it was Mike Pratt who hired John Calipari and did all that. I mean, Mitch Barnhart still had a lot to do with that, giving him the leash he needed, giving him the resources he needed to do everything he needed to do to be good for about 10 years for the Calipari tenure. All the secondary sports are pretty much thriving right now. We just saw volleyball play for another national title. I mean, the baseball team went to their first College World Series. Like the softball team is in the regionals, sometimes the super regionals, even made a College World Series. I think he's really good with that. And even then, like before then, like just think of what Kentucky was back in like the 90s. Like I remember going to those games as like just like a little kid. And I remember the stadium getting built when Tim Couch was here. It's like we were basically like a basketball program with some football bleachers, like when he got here. Now we have just a full athletic program, and what I think is still the hardest job in the SEC. Because, I mean, Vanderbilt, their fans, they care when they're winning, but when they don't, they're like, oh, whatever, we're Vanderbilt. Like Missouri has two cities to pull from with talent base because that even though that's lesser than it used to be with this pulling in high school talent, it's still important. And Kansas City and St. Louis can sustain them. Arkansas is close enough to Texas. The Mississippis are still close enough to Alabama and Louisiana and just the general South. But Kentucky is like the least populated state in the SEC, if I remember correctly. Maybe it's Arkansas. But we got to split that talent with U of L too, and Arkansas doesn't have to do that. And that's with all sports, and athletes want to stay south where it's warm, where they can train year round, and it gets fairly cold here during the winter. There's oversight there with people just saying, oh, we're Kentucky. We've won for 20 years and basically everything now, so it should be like that. And I think Mitch Barnhart doesn't get nearly the credit he deserves for that, for building just a comprehensive athletic program across the board. But then we go to the future. Everyone has a shelf life and everything. It doesn't matter who you are in any line of work. Like friendships end, like careers end. It may be time. Like 20 years in one place is a long time. It's a really dynamic thing. I know if I was that age and I dealt with all this and built with all this, I personally wouldn't want to deal with it anymore. He may feel differently. Like as quiet as he is and kind of the Christian that he is, that we know about at least. Not saying he's like doing anything bad on the side or anything, but kind of like the kind of just trying to say in the long roundabout way, like everyone like who's talked to him knows he's a good guy. You'd want to hang around him like with your family and everything, like good member of the community and all that. But do you really want to keep going in this new age? I personally wouldn't, and maybe it is time. But and I think he's kind of considered that too with like his new contract being like an advisory role. But also he's a very prideful person. Like you see it in the hires, like in the rare media he does do. Sometimes he takes like the questions about his coaches personally and like working with some of the coaches in the analytics role in the past. Like I know he goes to bat for them like every single year. He loves, cares about them like when he brings them on. So it'd be a tough separation if it were to happen because of all he's done here. But like I said, like everything's got a shelf life in life. It doesn't matter if you're an athletic director, doesn't matter if you're working a desk job, doesn't matter if like you're in a relationship, everything has a time to end. So maybe this really is the time.
Yeah, you might have convinced me. As you were talking about how good he was, it was like a montage of the 2010s going through
Yeah.
my brain, and I'm like, damn,
It's been
Mitch
really
is the
good.
man.
It's been really good. And then like you look at all the other places, it's like Florida, I think, is still paying like two or three football coaches. LSU's a disaster. Like Ohio State,
Yes.
like everyone's saying, oh, Ross Bjork. I think Ross Bjork's there now. I've seen people in the comments like, oh, well, they're doing similar NIL than us, but Ross Bjork's actually a good AD. It's like that's the first time Ross Bjork's ever been called a good AD. Every single place he's left is like, thank God that guy's gone. But it's like we have been so stable for so long, and it's just I don't think people really kind of appreciate what he's done here with just how hard of a job this is to get talent, especially in those ancillary sports where the population's in the South and it wants to stay South. It doesn't want to be cold in the winter.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you think about it, track and field had a hell of a run. You know, the women's basketball team is on a crazy run right now. I lost to Alabama last night, but it was a great hire taking the guy from Virginia Tech. Man, I mean, he does really well. The problem is that UK basketball weighs so heavily on us. It's our identity. So personally, I like football. I don't love it like I love basketball, and I think that's how the rest of the fan base feel. We like when we're good at football, but if we're not good in basketball, nothing really else matters. That's how I feel, and I think I would say, what percentage of the fan base do you think feels like that? I think a good portion.
Yeah, I would say just put a rough number on it. I'd say it's like 75,
70?
25 basketball.
Yeah. Yeah. So, he's got to really navigate that, as he goes forward. But, is it Dwayne Peavy at DePaul that's going to come back and be the AD, or are they kind of waiting on that to Mitch says no boss and bring him in? I keep hearing it's somebody already there. So that could be the case as well. So, who knows? But
Yeah, the one hire that PV made would be who Holtman from Ohio State, and I mean it's better than it was before. But they had a horrible, horrible coach before he got there, and it's better, but it's still not good. And that's like the one hire you have to hire or nail at DePaul. It's the only athletic program I've ever heard of them having. I'm sure they have others. I mean, obviously everyone does, but it hasn't gone great. And then, like, if we just repeat that and make kind of a substandard hire again, it's like the same exact thing.
and this NIL stuff, from a administrator standpoint, I wouldn't want to deal with it either. It's like it's free agency and it's insane. Like
Yeah.
you've got to do so much to keep your teams, keep the players. I was talking to somebody the other day, like this isn't like it's like all the athletes are like university agnostic right now. Like they're gonna get a degree at the end, but it's like it's gonna be so many credits from like so many different places at the end of this, and they've got to do it because most of them aren't going to the profession or aren't going to play professionally, especially if you're talking about football. This is their way to make life changing money for their families, and they just have to move around. And I get it. Listen, I understand, but it has made college sports just so weird right now. And at that age, I wouldn't want to deal with something this new either. So that could be pushing him out as well.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I mean, it's kind of what everyone tells you, like, just when you're looking for a job yourself, not related to athletics, like the fastest way to get that salary bump is to just keep moving around to different companies, not work your way up. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of ripping apart the soul of the sport. I mean, kind of the thing that
It is.
made college athletics such like just I guess difference from the pros is like these guys choose to come to your school. They choose to stay there like 3 to 5 years, depending on red shirts, whatever you want to do with whoever's individual situation. And like you grow like that attachment to them over the years with them like growing and getting better. And like that's just kind of not there anymore. But then again, you can't fault the actual athletes themselves because they're just trying to look out for themselves. And until there's collective bargaining and the universities want to make them actual employees, it's just going to keep happening.
Yeah. I want to go right back to UK before we go to talk about the number one pick, possibly in the draft. The Jasper Johnson situation, the Trevor Noah situation, what's going on there? Like it seems like they just don't know who to play. I know you say you're more focused on college football analytics than basketball right now, but what are the analytics saying in terms of who should be playing?
Yeah, who should be playing? There's that kind of the tweet off of the Evan Maya site, I believe. He does like adjusted box minus. Basically, it should be Oway Low, Cam Williams, Quaintance, and then just kind of take your pick for the fourth, just kind of whoever's working there. That's like the most
Yeah,
analytically sound lineup. Then again, like they're not getting the most minutes together. I think we tried that during the Missouri game. It didn't really work out as great as possible because Quintance didn't have a spectacular game last game. Really, none of our bigs did.
yeah, they struggled.
But yeah, it kind of just goes back to let's just put all our tall guys out there. Let's just make this as ugly as possible on offense. And let's just try and make us just not score, make it to where our opponents can't score on us. Because, I mean, obviously, I don't know basketball scheme like Mark Pope does, or his assistants, or the players. I don't know any of that stuff. But what I've seen so far, it just looks like the offense is not going to work no matter what, unless we have shooters, which
Yeah,
we really don't. So it's just like throw up a Hail Mary in my mind. Try just to be those horrendous looking Virginia teams who play great defense and just see where that takes you. Because the SEC, it's still good this year. It's not nearly what it was last year. So there's definitely winnable games on the schedules, even against like good quality, like tier one opponents. Just try that maybe. That's really all I got. I wish I had an answer,
Yeah.
but my only answer is, man, just try something on defense because we're trying offense right now and trying the whole season, and it hadn't really worked.
Yeah. But I think part of when teams play good defense, they kind of like each other. I
Hmm.
don't know if these guys like each other. So it's
Yeah.
like I don't know. I don't know if the team defense think it's gonna work. Like you got to really be like joined at the hip to play. On a string, defense on a string, and these guys ain't. And I want to give every UK fan that can hear my voice right now. The next game, just pay attention to the assistants and their faces and Mark Pope's face. They are stressed, they have no answers. And they know that they're at the biggest stage in college basketball and they're shitting the bed. They're wetting the bed. And, they have no answers. And I don't know how this is going to go. It feels like 2013 again, where we were the problem is we came off a national championship in 2012. So, we kind of, 2013 was like whatever. But, it just feels like that type of year where it's just a wash and we just got to wait till the next year and see what happens. I don't know how many more games I'm going to watch because I hate seeing us get our asses kicked. I just do. And, especially to teams like I worked with a lot of Mizzou alums in the past, they're calling me, texting me, "Oh my God, we beat you guys at home." I don't want to hear that shit. So it's like, it's not supposed to happen. So we'll just continue to hope that things get better and go forward. Now, I kind of want to talk to you a little bit more about the number one overall pick, the NBA draft next year. I think, were you there at the UNC game when Caleb Wilson played?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, kind of you could tell kind of clear difference of the level of athlete on the floor. Obviously, I say Ortega's kind of our best athlete at that time. Obviously, Quentin's wasn't back then. But yeah, you could see the clear kind of athleticism difference between him and the others there.
Yeah, I think, when you look at the NBA draft boards and you just take the eye test, the top four, and I'll put, Caden Boozer at number four because he's clearly behind the other three guys. And that's Darren Peterson at Kansas, that's AJ DeBansa at BYU, and then there's Caleb Wilson at UNC. And, as a UK fan, we haven't had a lot of these guys in the past, what, 5, 6 years? None of these guys have wanted to come play and put on Kentucky blue. I think the one of the last guys we had a chance to get that's really at that echelon of could be a top 2 to 3 pick was Anthony Edwards. I think he was close to coming, but he ultimately stayed at UGA. So it's been a while since we had one of these guys. But when you watch these guys, man, all three of them are special. I think, once they get into the NBA, you're going to see immediately how special these guys are. They each are truly special individual talents. Darren Peterson, he's got, a perimeter game that was kind of beyond his years at this point. Caleb Wilson can just jump out the gym, and AJ DeBansa, he kind of reminds you of Cooper Flag last year in the sense that he's ready to go now. Like you can drop him into the NBA on any team, and he's ready to go. So that's why I ultimately think he would be the number one pick. But I think either any of these three guys are going to have the opportunity to have the best career out of those three because they're all just so dynamic. And so, I'm excited to see one of them can kind of get their team to the national championship and win it because they're so dynamic and they're kind of in that ilk of NBA superstar. They have the archetype to do that, and so that's exciting and always fun to see when that comes into college basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. The few games I've seen of Japan's at BYU's really impressed me. 35 years old, I got an early bedtime now. That kind of happens as you get
For
older.
sure.
And playing out in the mountains on the West Coast, yeah, it's hard to stay up for those games. But yeah, everything I've seen of them, he looks like he's got all the talent in the world to take him to the next level and even carry BYU this year to however far they can go.
Yeah, they're pretty good too. They've got a good team, and I know Mark Pope's like, oh my God, like there's another connection.
Yeah.
There it is again.
Hmm.
It's, oh, what a year! I can't believe this. Oh, we suck again. Oh man, this sucks. But yeah, AJ's really good. It's just they're having a great year. So last thing I wanted to talk about was possible national championship teams. I think we just named. I don't think Kansas. is one of those. They're struggling because Darren Peterson's having like a minutes thing restriction. His family doesn't want him to get hurt. I understand that, but it's kind of harming Kansas and their ceiling. BYU has a pretty good team, and UNC, I wouldn't say they have a chance. I think AJ has the best chance out of those three to win the national championship. But any teams that you've seen, have you watched the Michigans, the Iowa States? Who do you think has the best chance in terms of the analytics and what you've seen to win a natty?
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about national championship, got to lead off with Michigan right now. They've been absolutely just clubbing people. It's kind of strange. Their ratings are super, super high because they beat a lot of really good teams by a lot of margin, but they've also had a couple of games. I believe they went to Wake Forest or a neutral site around Wake Forest and went to overtime. I believe they just went to overtime against Penn State the other night on the road. They've had a couple close calls that would kind of suggest their ratings a little high right now, not some super team like that would say they are, but I would say they're certainly the clear favorite right now. Iowa State's look rock solid. TJ Otzelberger, really good coach, has Iowa State winning. As we saw with their football coach, Iowa State's not an easy place to recruit to, and if you get the ball
Man,
rolling there, yeah, they can definitely do some damage. And then the rest, Arizona's undefeated right now. I'm not wild about their shooting. You have to remind me of their freshman's name. Koa Pete.
Pete, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah. I watched them play the Florida game this year, opening night, and he was pretty impressive there in terms of athleticism and just leading at a young age. And then you kind of get into like kind of the hodgepodge of like these teams can make some noise and just get in the right matchup because they got flaws. I mean, you got your Purdue's, your Gonzaga, your Duke, even Illinois, UConn. They all can make a run if Michigan cools off a little bit, which I think might happen. I actually have an earlier ticket on Vanderbilt to make the Final Four at 25-1, and that's kind of come out of nowhere.
Ooh,
But yeah, they're looking very good right now. It seems like the secret to just being good in everything is just hire James Madison's coach. Because Byington, he
yeah,
came from
could
James
be.
Madison. Kirk Signetti came from James Madison. I don't know if you know this, but
Yep,
Kenny Brooks, our current women's coach before Virginia Tech, he was at James Madison, and that's looking like it's
I
going to
did
be
not
good
know
for
that.
years to come before. So, yeah, if you've
Yeah,
been at James Madison, that seems to be the secret going forward. Just hire whoever they're hiring because they got the magic formula right now, it looks like. Yeah, any of those teams, I think they can, and then the rest, I think, is just matchup dependent. Like BYU could be
yeah,
there. I mean, Houston could. They've always got like the really good defense. I think they were the favorite this year. They haven't really performed at that level yet, but I mean, they've been knocking on the door, so they've got the experience to get there. And yeah, everything else I think from there. But I think one of those from the teams I mentioned, those will be one of the teams cutting down the nets.
yeah, yeah. I agree. Like you said, Michigan's been clubbing people, so that always lends itself to, hey, this team might just be so good, so far ahead of the pack that they're just gonna go wire to wire. So that's possible. Maybe it's the Big Ten's year, man. It hasn't been since
Yeah,
2000. So I don't know. They've got Purdue and they've got Michigan, and I think both of those teams have the players, the ceilings to actually make it to a national championship game. So
yeah. I think with
maybe that's
Purdue, it's the
possible.
same kind of song and dance we've seen. No Edie this year, obviously, but they've got a farm of big men that they just keep plucking from. But I think if they run into a team, say like an Arkansas or like a team who just is known for like, or Houston or something like that, or like even that's why they struggle with Kentucky in the exhibition. We've just got athletes like who can just stay in front of
Yeah.
them and disrupt their offense. Obviously, the stereotype of Purdue is slow, we'll say, um,
Yeah.
but well disciplined. I guess would be the code words for that. But
Oh
But
shit.
yeah, I mean, it's all matchup dependent for teams like that. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting tournament whether Kentucky's in it or not.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I think Houston, like you said, they could sneak in. It could be their year simply because they have a freshman who can actually score this time. So if you can defend around him, maybe you got a shot. Please God, not another UConn title. I don't know if I can stomach Dan Hurley again on the top of the mountain. I hate that guy. I've got one of my best friends with the UConn. Ever since 2014, I've been hearing it, and they've taken, a couple of our titles since 2010, pretty much. I think so. Fuck UConn, and I don't want to see them winning again, and I really just don't want Cal. If Calipari wins a title, I don't think they have enough, but that would send us into a spiral.
Yeah, it definitely would, but I think Kentucky and Arkansas are going to end the season with the same number of trophies, which would be zero. But yeah, I don't think
I
they're
hope so.
competing for anything real there. They'll have some good wins, they'll have some success, but I mean, what about Calipari's coaching says like they're going to be able to win 6 games in March? I just don't see it.
Yeah, they scared the shit out of me in that Sweet 16 game. What was it, Elite Eight game? They had it and almost made it to the Final Four last year. That would have been not great from our perspective. But it was time to let Cal go. We had some great years, but like you said, everything has a shelf life, and that needed to be over. CFP, you've got Indiana. I know you put money down on them, but do you what is your head telling you?
I think it's going to be Indiana. I mean, like I've tried to just like this is Indiana. Like they don't have the high school recruiting that like Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, LSU has. But then like you can only look at the numbers so much. It's like they're just good at everything. And it's like I think
Yeah,
the travel toll and the game toll that Oregon's going to play or has played so far is going to take a toll on them. I mean, they played a glorified game in the college playoff against James Madison, which they were always in control of. But it's still a game played. It's still stress on bodies. Then the next week, got to fly down to Miami, played a game that you dominated on the scoreboard, but it was a tough physical game the entire way through. Fly back to Eugene, rest up for a week. Now you're flying to Atlanta to play a fairly well rested Indiana team. Because even though they flew
yeah.
to Pasadena the week before, they were just running layup lines against Alabama, so they didn't look too fatigued. And then if they were to win that one, they would have to then fly back to Miami for the national title game to play Miami at home. So I just think Indiana's really good and really rested compared to the rest of the field. It's pains me to say as a Kentucky fan because similarly, like we're on a similar trajectory to Indiana pre Signetti hire, or similar program statuses, I should say, throughout history, even though we've had like more recent success than Signetti got there and changed everything. But yeah, so that stinks to see. But yeah, I guess if anything, if you're going to take a positive from Indiana winning the national title as a Kentucky fan, saying, well, if it's done in Indiana, it can be done here. So just get the right guy in and see if it works out.
Yeah, I hate IU more than I think all of our rivals. Duke's up there, but I respect Duke. I hate IU. It's different because it's not basketball, so it's like whatever. But I just ugh, nasty. But
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with everything you said. Oregon has been everywhere. They've been flying a lot. IU's well rested. That could be the difference. But I think either one of them are going to have a tough shot to beat Miami at home. We'll see. Last thing, and I'll let you get out of here. Will Stein recruiting looking pretty good. His offense looking pretty good. They looked okay against Texas Tech. The Red Raiders have one of the best front sevens, in college football. So that was tough. How you feeling about the hire? And what are expectations first year?
Uh, I was kind of really encouraged by the hire. I know it was kind of between Hartline and him, or at least that's what the talking heads were saying. I'm glad it wasn't Hartline, especially after him getting
Really?
in like a drunk ATV crash as like the recruiting coordinator at the time for Ohio State. I don't want to see that from my coaches while they're in a position of power there, and I don't think that really
Sure.
kind of translates well to a higher level. Even though we have like the Heartline connection with his brother being the quarterback here, I don't think that would have worked out well at all. But I like Stein. I like the youth angle to it. Get a young guy in here, take a lesser salary, spend the rest on your roster. It seems like the coaching staff's coming together well, and obviously getting Minchie from Notre Dame, their current backup, to come be our guy. Solid runner, solid passer, should be able to process the offense well. So it looks like Will Stein knows what he's doing there with like QB and everything. The rest is going to take some time to fill out. I don't think it's going to be an Indiana situation next year just because, I mean, James Madison was operating at such a high level. They had guys who can come in and take advantage of that easy schedule, get a year of development in, then become what they're becoming now. I don't think the quality of the O line and D line is that good in the portal anymore. So it's going to be hard to build that. But what we've seen in the SEC, even though our schedule looks pretty hard next year, the SEC is kind of fallen on its face against like other conferences. So
Yeah,
the clear talent advantage that used to be there is no longer there. So it's in the Big Ten, some of it's in the ACC, some of it's in the Big 12 now. So it does make a pathway to get to a bowl game possible. I think a bowl game, depending on who else comes in the portal, who else we retain, and all that. I think Nichols is coming back in the secondary, should be good for us. Yeah, it seems like everything is there to have an okay season for the first year. I think long term, as he grows and develops, we could get into an even more expanded playoff, maybe win a game. I mean, Ole Miss is winning games now in the playoff. Like Indiana's winning games in the
man.
playoff. Like so, what it was 10 years ago, where it's just recruit as many 5-star athletes as possible and stock them on your roster, develop them. That's gone now. Like there's less of a ceiling than there ever has been. So yeah, take a shot on the young guy and see what he can do. I think it should be a successful tenure. I don't think we should have our sights on national championship per se, but I think a consistent winning football season record should be within Stein's capabilities.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree that more so than any time that I've been a Kentucky fan, there's a pathway for us to actually really make some noise, be good. I mean, you can like you're seeing with Indiana, they never thought that they'd be in this position, and they are. So, I said it before at the beginning of this. I love basketball. It doesn't really matter, but if we get really good at football, I'm
Yeah.
all in. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so that'll be cool. The last thing I want to say is just talk about Trinidad Chambliss real fast. This kid was the backup at Ole Miss. The guy got hurt. He's gonna be an NFL draft pick. Like he wasn't even gonna play this year. And last night he looked really fucking good. Like he looked like a first round pick at
Yeah.
QB last night, what I was looking at. So shout out to him. The way life works sometimes, you get lucky. And when you get lucky, you can take advantage of your opportunity, man. Anything's possible. So I think he's going to have a decent NFL career. That's what it looks like. And then tonight, when we've got IU and Oregon, we probably have the top two quarterbacks going at it tonight as well. In terms of being drafted, so that should be fun. So yeah, it's been a fun college football season, regardless of all the movement. It's been really fun.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to the transfer portal. Like, without everyone bemoans the transfer portal. Oh, we can't get to know these kids. But without the portal, like, we never hear Trinidad Chambliss' story. Like, he's working at a warehouse somewhere after last year. Like, his college career's done, and
Yes.
now he's like potentially almost led his team to a national title berth, and now he's going to the NFL. Like, it's amazing what's like
Whew.
happening with all this stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy. And yeah, I guess those are the stories that they need to, kind of portray and uplift with this show because it is otherwise it's mayhem. So it's
Yeah,
like otherwise it's crazy, but those type of stories, I guess, make it worth it. So, you know, otherwise like you say, you be working at a warehouse, it might be some guys just as good as MJ that never got the shot, man. And so now you get to kind of get a better shot with the transfer portal. But anything else you want to talk about, John, or is that it? I appreciate you coming on again, man. It's good to do this again with you, and hopefully by the next time we have you on, UK is looking a little better on the hardwood.
yeah. Hopefully, we're looking at some bracketologies in a couple months favorably, and hopefully, we can win a game or two. Hopefully, we find something. It makes winter really long when Kentucky basketball is not fun.
Yeah, I'm not even. I'm telling you, we keep losing. I'm not. I'm gonna stop watching. I shit you not. I had made plans for Indianapolis with my friends. I'm like, hey, Pope's talking like this. We're going to the Final Four. Who do we know in Indianapolis so we can stay with? Like, I'm telling my fiance, like, we're finally back,
Yeah.
and we're not. So, but yeah, I appreciate you coming on, man, and we'll do this again soon.
Yep, absolutely, man. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, sounds good.